Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about float choice, especially for commercial fishing. So for a lot of the things that I do quite close with commercial fishing, especially this time of year, so we are middle of February, and I'll do lots of, you know, F1 Snake Lake kind of style fishing, little bit of mudline if it's deep enough at this time of year, and also as well I'll do some open water fishing as well, sometimes for F1, sometimes for carp. But for the majority, you know, the majority of the pole fishing that I do this year, these are the kind of floats that I use. So these are bunched. Now I actually make these myself, but they are a slimline kind of pattern. These ones are, I do them in a carbon stem. I do them in a wire stem. So they both are 0.8 of a mil, and I do them in 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4. Of a gram as well in terms of their weight. The bristles are 1 mil hollow, so I sorry 1.2 mil hollow, so they're really slim and super sensitive floats. Like I said, they are ones that I make myself, but there's lots of these out on the market. You know, obviously if you've got any questions about these ones in particular, give us a shout. You know, just they're fantastic for a lot of the fishing I do, and I obviously have them dotted down right to a pimple. I'll show you on this camera here. So these are the floats. Okay, so as you can see, they are typical standard kind of slim style float, and like I said, I have them dotted, you know, right down to the very fine pimple. Just put that on against a black background. There we go. Tiniest little thing. So when, you know, the fish has only got to breathe on it and bang, it's gone. Little dink, and you can hit it straight away. So these are, like I said, fantastic floats. I do make them myself. But they are, you know, based on many patterns that are out there, some fabulous floats that you can see. So, and that caters for most of my fishing, really. That they're absolutely, you know, in terms of commercial fishery this time of year. For my mudline and margin, and I also sometimes use them, not necessarily for mudline, but certainly for shallow. These are the ones that I use. Okay, again, they're a bit like the SF2s that MAP make, and I do these in a glass stem, and I use them a lot for shallow fishing, and really good as well up against reeds and things like that. But I tend to use a slightly, you know, these more of a diamond pattern, as you can see, and again a hollow bristle, which is a lot thicker. You know, it's generally made a lot more for shallow fishing, and I like them in a blue just because that's what I like to do them as, really. So fantastic for those. And again, any questions, just drop me a comment or an email. Not absolutely fine, just let me know. And also as well, these the first pattern that I showed you as well, I also do these in a glass stem as well. So if you're new to this kind of thing, why have different stems? So here I've got 3 floats that look exactly the same. Like that focus, there we go. Right, so these look exactly the same. Basically, why do I have it in 3 different stems? So they're all, these ones in my hand, they are 0.4 of a gram in weight. They're exactly the same shape. Bristle is hollow, and it's 1.2 millimeter, so it makes it super sensitive for these shy biting F1s. And I do them in 3 different stems. So the wire stem is for anything that is kind of 4 foot or more, 4 to sort of 5.5 foot, and it just means that it gives me lots of stability. I can use it shallower, up to 3 foot, especially if it's really windy. So if it's really windy and there's a big chop on, I can dot the float up a little bit more so you can see the bristle, and I tend to, you know, use it to give good stability in the rig on a really windy day when generally, you know, you're kind of struggling to hold the pole anyway in that kind of conditions. The carbon one is what I use most, so that gives me a really slow fall through the water. And the carbon stem, it does, you know, it allows the bait as it goes in there, the stem and the rigs there, like, it actually follows it through. It follows it through all the time, and then the second anything pulls on it, you get a little sharp dink. It just means you can read it all the way through for a through the water kind of style rig, and that's what I use most of my carbon ones for. And the glass one is in between those two. So it gives me a little bit more stability. So it might be that I'm still wanting to see what's going on through the water, but it's a bit of a sort of a ripple on that day, and it's a little bit, you know, a bit blustery, and it just gives me something a little bit in between, a little bit more stability than the carbon, but just gives me that little bit more in terms of I can still follow it through. You know, it still gives me the stability, but it can still follow me through. So I do it in the 3 separate patterns, and I do them again in 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 of a gram, generally speaking. Okay, so some of the other patterns that I use an awful lot this time of year is I use basically Chianti style floats. There's 2 there. There's the original black, original purple and black one. From sort of, you know, the fantastic, the perfect for silverfish fishing, and also there's the Preston's version as well of the black one there. So fantastic floats, really, and I use these for, like I said, for a lot of silver stuff. They're really, really super light and super sensitive, and it's fantastic to use for silvers. They're great like that. I also use, let me just put these back in my tray. There we go. I mentioned the mudline before, so these are the mudline floats that I use. And these are actually made by Nick Gilbert for me. Have a little look at Nick's floats. They're fantastic, and I get quite a few things from Nick, float-wise and elastics as well. It's perfect this for a little bit of dobbing, if it's a bit choppy. But it's also really, really good for margin and mudline as well. So I use this all year round. But I do carry some this time of year, just in case it's a bit rough and I'm trying a bit of dobbing up against the reeds, you know, on a snake lake, for example, or up against a feature on a match lake. If it's a little bit, you know, choppy, and most of the time these are sort of a 0.3 of a gram. But he does do them in different sizes as well, so you can see that. And another one I use a lot. This is similar to what I used before, so that's so that's my version of what I showed you, and this is another float here by Nick Gilbert. So this is the one, let's get it in shot. This is the one that I used for you before, I make, and this is another one from Nick Gilbert. So it's very, very similar. The tip is ever so slightly, it's still a hollow bristle, but it's ever so slightly thicker, okay? It's a 0.3 of a mil, and the body, as you can see, is a little bit fatter. And I use these in 0.3 gram and 0.4 gram as well, with a wire stem. And again, it's just fun on those where if the water's a little bit deeper or it's a little bit choppier, these are absolutely brilliant floats, brilliant rigs to use. And again, still super, super sensitive. So fantastic for any kind of commercial fishing that you're doing at the moment.